So with a surprise patch with 3 new boats, the Forest Lords gave us Kelvin boobs. Aside from that, they also introduced a new build system, which is going to really need a hotfix, I guarantee it. We've got new console commands to go over, and we're going to take a look at the extended border, so hit those buttons and let's get into it. Let's start with the Stewardess dress. I think this is a nod back to the original Forest, and if you look at this location on the map, you can see it sitting on the passenger seat of this down plane. If you don't want to look for it yourself, you can use this console command right here, and it's going to take you right to it. Just be warned that you might get stuck inside of the plane, and it took me a couple of tries myself to get out of it.
Come on, man!
If using the word as a command isn't working for you, try using the XYZ positions right here. You can also see the zone that it's in. Once it's in your inventory, you can find it at this location, and you can either wear it yourself, or you can put it on Kelvin. And he gets boobs, apparently. Hilarious. I don't know why I find this so funny. If you try to give it to Virginia, she wants no part of it. You can confirm this by opening up her inventory and seeing that none of the pages have changed. But that doesn't seem to bother Kelvin. So let's talk about rafts. You can find them in your book, you don't need to find any blueprints, and they have their own tab. Once you build it out, you can do all those things you wanted to do for the last 2 years. If you want to teleport to the houseboat, you can use this command right here. If you want to teleport to the small raft, try this command. And lastly, if you want to go to the large raft, use this command here. It's that easy. Just keep in mind things might get a little more tricky if you're using multiple of the same type of boat. A command that I thought was really cool was this auto drive feature. Once enabled, it's always on. So you can turn it on, you can get into your raft, you can get on your boat, and it's just going to take you across the ocean or the lake if you can somehow manage to pull that off. You can use this command to deactivate it, but like I said, once it's activated, all you have to do is interact with the drive feature and it's going to start moving. Once you let go, everything stops as normal. I had high hopes that this would work also for the golf carts, but it seemed like it doesn't. Now, I don't know if this command is new, but I figured I'd mention it. I've never seen it before, and it gives you the ability to respawn wherever you set the command at. If you die, you're going to instantly teleport back to that location. Full health, no warning, nothing. You just respawn. Pretty cool. Next, we're going to talk about the world bounds debug command, which you can turn on and off. And this is going to show you the new bounds on the map. I can clearly see that they've extended it because this wall used to be right up against the dock. Now, of course, while I was over here already, I went ahead and disabled the ocean and I tried to see if I can interact with anything like the fish or the sharks, and that's when I noticed the flat ground here. It looks like everything here is just made out of stretched out planks. Just to get a scope of what we're talking about on a global scale, you can see they've added a good section of map all the way around. If you want some honest feedback from me, I think you need to make the sharks a little more interactive. Have them attack the rafts, have their heads be collectible, even if they sink to the bottom. Make it an adventure, give us something to do with these new rafts that you've given us. I'm honestly thankful for the ragdoll physics though, this is kind of fun. While I was turning on and off the physics of the water, I figured, can we topple over any one of these rafts? The first time I did it, it sunk me to the bottom, and as soon as I re-enabled the code, I noticed that we flew back to the surface of the water. We didn't exactly fly out of the water, but it did seem that the raft that I was using at the time did level itself back up. It's kind of like one of those punching clowns that don't seem to fall down. I tried this command out a few times, and this time I actually stood on the very top of the boat. I didn't touch any of the controls or anything like that, so once the boat flipped, we were still kind of back in the same position we were in before. Very funny. Here's what it looks like with the water surface added back, and I'm interested in seeing that programming. Next, I wanted to do a zipline test, and I wanted to know if I could zipline from boat to boat or something like that, boat to land. And I noticed that the only time I could really interact with it was when the boat was partially built. While it seemed to stick to it in this position, once the boat was actually completely built, the zip lines that I applied just stayed wherever they were floating at. So that's something to consider in future base builds. Maybe I need to build a dock. Next, I focused on building on top of the boat, and that's when I discovered that the old glitch where you could build tables on top of tables was back. We're going to come back to this a little bit later in the video, and I think you're going to really like it. This patch did introduce new defensive walls, but it doesn't look like they interact with the boat at all. If you're one who likes building shelves, then you'll be pleased to know that all of these shelves can attach to each other. I don't know if this was intentionally left in here. Maybe they wanted you to be able to make your own planks. I don't know. But it also works with the weapon holders too. The more and more I played with these ideas, the crazier things I was coming up with. If you were wondering if you can attach solar panels from one boat onto a device on another boat, you're gravely mistaken. Everything was just giving me this anchor sign, and I wasn't able to attach anything, so count that idea out. Thought maybe it had something to do with the boat not being anchored itself, but nothing seemed to work there. Now, because I like my prefabs, I went ahead and spawned a couple of hundred radios on top of this raft. If you've seen some of my other videos, then you know that the log sled and the radios interact in a crazy way, so I wanted to know if that effect also happened when you used it on a raft and mixing it with the log sled. Now, just moving the boat alone was making all the radios popcorn around, but we also got some really funny effects when I started to move the log sled on the boat with the radios. When I could stay on, of course. What a mess. You like golf carts? I like golf carts, but it didn't seem to matter how many I put on the boat. I wasn't tipping over this boat at all. I don't know if the weight had anything to do with it or what. If you wanted to know how well a spotlight works underwater, don't waste your time. I somehow managed to get the power hooked up to this thing, but the results were less than awesome. It was hard enough to try to get a battery connected to the solar panel and then get the thing wired up that I just don't think it's worth it. Clearly you're not going to see it during the day, but if you turn it to nighttime, it's almost non-existent. You can tell that the bubbles are shimmering underwater, but without a surface to reflect on, it's just kind of pointless. It had no problem lighting up my inventory, so I guess that's a thing. So another useful command that I have here is going to actually show you how to find your raft or your boat anywhere on the map, even if you're not close to it. You can put in this command here for the small raft. That's going to show you the exact location of where your raft is. It's going to show up in a little yellow marker. You can look around and you can see the distance and the name of what type of raft it is. You can even spot them in the dark. Now, you remember how I said I was going to come back to these tables? Well, I told my good friend Rippy D about this method and how it's returned. When I came into his server, this is what he had built. I knew the tables stacked, but I had no idea they were going to stack like this. And I was amazed to see that this thing didn't flip over in the water. Just the sheer size of this thing and the fact that it can just move with ease is just kind of mind-blowing at this point. And you'll be pleased to know that this actually saves. And I made a quick time lapse of the build. While he was doing that at the top, I was working on some shelves at the bottom so that we could store some of our items. Now this thing was ready for the ocean. Look at it go. It's so wobbly, and it's all tables and shelves. I'm honestly just mesmerized at the fact that this thing is moving. It's likely going to take me some time to see that custom items like this moving in the water and getting used to it. Now on this server, Rippy D was the host, and what he started to do was to duplicate the ocean. This started to make the boat itself really go out of control. On his screen, he had a lot of waves, but on my screen, it just looked like the boat was floating and wobbling around. Thanks to the powers of Discord, I was actually able to get a perspective from his point of view, which I'll show here in just a bit. Just look at how ridiculous this is. I can only imagine what he's going through, duplicating the ocean over and over to get ridiculous waves, but over time it just seems like the boat eventually did settle in, couldn't handle the pressure anymore. Back on land, we got the crazy idea to duplicate the boat. Depending on what boat type, you can use the names that we used earlier with the duplicate object command, and you can duplicate your exact build as many times as you need to. And if you have something as ridiculous like this, it loads from the top down. So if your item is moving, then it's going to place the elements randomly, as you can see above with the tables, until it settles into place. Oh snap, this one's alive. It just looks so crazy. You're just not used to seeing this. Oh, game didn't like that. How can we make this worse? We actually removed the land and tried to sink the boats way underneath the map, but it seems like the raft actually separated from the rest of the building while most of the top end stayed at the top. Whenever Rippy D used his free cam, that's when it would make the rest of the boats loosen up and fall even further. Since I was on his server, I was able to enjoy the funny parts of this while he was down below trying to get things to work. For whatever reason, animals started to fly up in the sky, and the birds started to get real choppy. Bye-bye, raccoon. And of course, in true Rippy D fashion, we did get ourselves some raining golf carts. Overall, I am real excited to play with this patch, and I do look forward to modding some of this stuff. Later.